Okay, this is the pre-video for section 3.3, which is over graphing lines and writing linear equations. So hopefully review, but we're going to go ahead and kind of do this as a pre-video, and we'll have some pieces that we'll do in class. So one of the basic things in geometry that also ties into algebra is the idea of a line and solutions to a line. To be able to talk about different kinds of lines, there's a couple of different things we have to know. One of the formulas you are expected to know is how to find the slope of a line from two ordered pairs. And a lot of people think of this as rise over run. It's the change in y over the change in x, which is why there's subtraction on both top and bottom. You could be subtracting a negative though, so it does sometimes change to plus, but the general formula is number minus number. So these two came from the y-intercepts, or y pieces, not intercepts, y coordinates of the ordered pairs. This comes from the x. Some people say, do you always have to start with y2? No, you could start with y1, but you have to start with x1 on the bottom. You must be consistent. So this is just a picture of some different slopes. Negative slopes look like they're going downhill. Positive slopes look like they're going uphill. And you notice the bigger the slope value, the steeper the slope. So let's just practice using the formula. This would be x1, y1, x2, y2. So the slope of this first line, excuse me, I don't know how that happened. The slope of this first line would be m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I sometimes draw the blanks, that helps fill it in. So y2 is 6, y1 is negative 1, x2 is 5, x1 is 5. So this would be 6 plus 1 on top over 5 minus 5. That's 7 over 0, which is undefined. You are not allowed to leave it as 7 over 0. You have to either tell me, is the answer 0 or is it undefined? 0 on top is 0, 0 on the bottom is undefined. Let's do the next one. Same numberings. So this would be negative 3 minus a negative 1 on top, because that's the two y values, over negative 6 minus 4 on the bottom. This is negative 3 plus 1 over negative 6 minus 4, so that is negative 2 over negative 10. We are supposed to reduce, so this would be positive because it's negative over negative, and it reduces to 1/5. The next one is x1, y1, x2, y2, and would be negative 2 minus negative 2 over negative 3 minus 4. This is negative 2 plus 2 over negative 3 minus 4. That is positive 0, or just 0, over negative 7, and 0 on top is just 0. You cannot leave it as 0 over the number. Just like if it was 5 over 1, we write it as 5. You don't leave it over 1. Okay, so some special kinds of lines, horizontal and vertical. Horizontal lines have the equation y equals b. It's whatever this number is, the y is always that value. So it has a single variable in it. Just like the vertical lines will only be x equals a number, so x equals whatever this number is. So that's different from y equals mx plus b, which we're going to talk about in a minute, because these only have one letter and a number. The slope of a horizontal line is 0. The slope of a vertical line is undefined, and that has to be memorized. Okay, so for example 2, we're going to sketch these. So I'm going to try to do them in different color. I'll do this one in black, this one in red, and this one in blue. This is what we call the format, and we haven't wrote it down yet. You could use a table of values of these, but I don't like wasting time. This is what we call mx plus b. So this is always considered to be the y-intercept, and this is your slope. So this has a y-intercept of 0, negative 1. This has a slope of negative 2 over 1. That I do put the over 1 when I'm doing the slope in terms of graphing it. Okay, so that means that that top number either tells you up or down because it's the rise, so this would actually be down. The bottom number sign, which is positive since this is negative on top and that has no symbol, this is always telling you right or left, so in this case it's going to be right. So 0, negative 1, and then I need at least one more point, so I'm going to go down 1, 2, and then right 1. And then I'm going to insert a graph line. So we want this line to go through those 2 points. And we'll change the color of it to black to match the equation. Okay, now we're going to do the red one. This would have a y-intercept of 0, 3, and a slope of -2/1 again. So 0, 3, and then down 2 over 1. And we're going to insert a line to go through those 2 points. Excuse me, my allergies are getting worse. Let's make sure that lines up. It's not quite perfect. And you notice that this one's red. This is a parallel line to this one. So something to note, and we will formally define it in class, is that if two things have the same slope, they end up being parallel lines. So then we have one more. Let's get the blue. This has a y-intercept of 0, 3, but this time the slope is 1/2, which means up because it's positive on the top, and right. So up and right. So again, I'm right here at 0, 3, but this time I'm going up 1 and then right 2. Keep that point there. And this time I'm using my blue line and going through those 2 points. I'm gonna have to square it up a little bit. Now, we didn't define this yet either, but it's kind of something I'm going to talk about now and we'll define in class. If you notice, the slope of this line is similar to the other one in terms that it has a 2, where this is -2/1, this is 1/2. It flipped and changed signs, and this graph is perpendicular to both of those. It actually meets at 90 degrees if you can get your line squared up, which I'm having a little bit of trouble doing on Word. But those actually cross at 90 degrees, so those end up being perpendicular, which will be formally defined in this section on Monday's class. Okay, just a couple other things, and maybe I'll do an easy one or two. When you're trying to, this is a crucial formula right here. If I tell you that any formula is important, it is definitely point slope. Point slope is your bridge between taking a point and a slope and turning it into an equation. It is crucial to know this formula. Then after you put it into point slope, you either solve it for slope intercept, which means you solve for y, or you get x and y on the same side with no fractions, which is called general or standard form. Now, some things you have to know how to do if you're finding slope. If you have 2 ordered pairs, you use your formula we practiced. If you have a graph, you can count the rise and run. Positive slopes go uphill from left to right. Negative slopes go downhill from left to right. And if you have an equation, you can actually solve it for y equals mx plus b, because the slope will be right there in front of x once it is in this format. It is not true that you can just grab whatever number's in front of x unless you're in this format. If you want to write an equation, you do the following 3 steps. You find the slope. Sometimes it's given to you. Sometimes you have to find it. You use point and slope into the point slope formula. You could also plug into y equals mx plus b, but this seems to be a little bit more usable. And then you either put it into slope intercept or general form based on the directions. Okay, we'll talk about parallel and perpendicular in class on Monday, specifically how to do those. I'm going to do just, I'm going to do A, B, and C. I'll do those right now, and then that'll give us a good place to start in class on Monday. So for this first one, let me get back to my pens. It says this is a point and you want to be parallel to the x-axis. Parallel to the x-axis means you're horizontal. Horizontal lines are always going to be a y equals a number. The number it equals is the y value. So this one will be y equals 2. Perpendicular to the x-axis means you are a vertical line. Vertical lines are always just x and a number. So this is kind of a trick question because there's no work involved. You just had to know that this means horizontal and this means vertical. And what does that mean as an equation? Horizontal and vertical are the two special ones. Okay, for this one, I've been given my slope and I've been giving a point. So I can plug this into point slope. So remember that's y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. That's from the chart up above. So y1 is -2, m is 5, and then x minus 0. That's a plus plus because it's minus a negative. So I actually have y plus 2 equals 5 times x and 5 times 0, which would just be 0. Final step depends on which format they want my answer in. These are supposed to be in general form, so actually my next step is not to solve for y. If you want to be in general form, you need to get x and y on the same side. So I'm actually going to subtract the y over, and then I just reflip it so that it looks like the normal general form, which is the letters on the left and the number on the right. And that is legal as long as you keep everything the same. Okay, and then the last one I'm going to do on the pre-video is part C. Let me just double check. Yeah, some of these I want to do in class together on Monday. So this one is that we need, okay, remember that an x-intercept is a number and then a 0, so that's kind of just making sure you know to translate that. We need to find the slope, so we will do 0 minus 6 over 5 minus -1. That's -6 over 6 or -1. So now I have my m, and I have a point. I can use either point. So once you have a point and a slope, you can plug it in. So y minus y1 would be y minus 6. I'm just going to pick this point. Slope is -1. Then I would have x minus -1. So that would be plus because it was minus a negative. And I'm going to general form, so I need to get rid of that distributive property first. And then the x needs to go over and join the y, so I'll add it over, and the 6 needs to go over to the other side. So that would be -1 plus 6, which would be positive 5. So it's just manipulating that equation. And that'll be the end of the pre-video, so make sure you are ready for a short worksheet and you take notes on this section for that worksheet.